Good afternoon. It is Friday, July 24th, 2026, and I'm pleased once again to have Professor Robert Pape with me today from University of Chicago. Once again, he has graciously agreed to allocate some of his time to come onto my channel and discuss all things international politics. Um, uh, Before I proceed, as always, I would like to ask my audience and whoever is listening, if you like what you see and what you hear on this channel, to please subscribe. I really appreciate that. This is the Golden Fleece, so let's get started. Professor, thank you so much once again for being with me. I know you are a very busy man, and so let's dive right into it. As expected, MOU has been flushed down the toilet. Your great concept that this is an escalation trap that President Trump has found himself in is playing out precisely so. It is your predictive, your prescience is just very impressive on this. Here is this giant sort of super state that cannot seem to mold this developing or backward, or so many phrases have been used to propagandize the image of negatively the image of Iran, that this everybody nowadays thinks that Iran is this little minion who just cannot resist. That in and of itself is a theory in IR, if I'm not mistaken, how big states, super states, sort of have a hard time dealing with small states. But please, the stage is yours. Your concept. If you don't mind explaining to the audience what the
Absolutely, Lasha. Well, so first of all, thank you so much again for having me on. A lot of your listeners will have watched last time, and they'll know that I was extremely pessimistic about the MOU, thought it would fall apart, and it has fallen apart for pretty much the reasons we said. So
Yes.
we are in a wicked escalation trap, Lasha. An escalation trap occurs when a strong state uses military force and is tactically successful. Bombs hit targets, bombs kill leaders, bombs destroy launchers, but it is strategically a failure because it becomes strategically weaker as the other side gets stronger. And that is exactly what happened. Stage one of the escalation trap in this war was American regime change bombing. This did not break the regime in Iran, even though it did kill leaders, did hit targets. 137 leaders, not just the supreme leader, killed. So this is really quite a large leadership decapitation effort. That's like killing the US president, his wife, the first family, half of the cabinet, a third of the members of Congress. So just kind of put this in a little bit of perspective. But instead of it weakening Iran, paralyzing Iran, Iran lashed back in a stage two, which was to take Hormuz. And this stages I published on the Escalation Trap Substack on February 25th. The paper is called The Smart Bomb Trap. It's the very first paper in the series. And I have, this comes from modeling Iran for 20 years. I've taught for the US Air Force. I've studied every air campaign since World War I, economic blockades, economic sanctions, international terrorism. So this is my life, is basically studying these escalation issues, and taught for the US Air Force. So this is not just a casual acquaintance with these issues. Think about it, Lasha, is a lot of people will go to the general practitioner doctor, and that's like just your standard general or your standard colonel. But when you get heart disease and you've got to have heart surgery, the GPs don't, it's not the radiologist, it's not the GP, you've got to go to the surgeon. That's what I do. I am really this specialist in this narrow corner of which of course is mattering to the world, because it's now we're about to have a world economic crisis as a result of this. So this is maybe a narrow specialty, but it's certainly one of the most important in the world. So this now led to then a series, put us right on the horns of a dilemma I call the ground power dilemma, which is, are we going to go forward to take Hormuz back physically, Or are we going to let Iran rise in power, surge in power, keep Hormuz, all that money from Hormuz, extend a sphere of influence that's from Lebanon to the Red Sea and to the Gulf? All this I laid out, and now you see it's actually happening. And then the next stage would be Iran gets nuclear weapons. So Iran would not become a regional hegemon overnight. It would take a year or two, but this was the road that was clearly the choice. And now, what you could do to try to avoid this fork in the road is you could do 6 weeks of a bombing campaign. Tried, that failed. You could do months of an economic blockade. Tried, failed. These are all fully predictable. Now, to the rest of the world, there's, oh my goodness, let's try this. Let's try. No, these are exactly the arrows in the quiver. There are only so many arrows in the quiver. And I know because I've advised every White House from 2001 to 24. So these may not be a menu of options well known to the public or even to super smart people. I deal with smart people all the time. But these are the standard set. And so these were all known to fail, very likely to fail. Now, nothing's inevitable in this world. So think about my predictions as 70% predictions. But month after month after month after month, Lasha, 6 in a row, this has all come to, and it's not because I'm doing seances or don't have a direct phone call to the Supreme Leader and President Trump. So no, this is coming from the modeling as I'm just explaining, and from all these years of experience, knowing what is likely going to be follow-on steps. So this is what we find ourselves in today. It's a wicked escalation trap. We're right on the door to this major escalation. We can talk about some of the details. We're closer to ground operations than we've ever been, literally, possibly within days or hours. So this is how close we've come. And we haven't gone over the step yet. So until the President of the United States literally orders go, it hasn't happened yet. So we just need to understand that the world, even though it seems fully inevitable in hindsight, it's not quite that way going forward. But nonetheless, we are at that point, and that is why we're here today to talk about really the most dangerous weeks yet in the Iran war. We're not heading back to March. This is way more dangerous than that, way more dangerous. And of course, glad to unpack all that.
Now, Professor, you touched on something very interesting. And of course, the sources of your prediction for that particular point are obviously much more sophisticated than mine. I'm just going by with my instinct. But a month ago or so, I had Douglas McGregor on, and with whomever I can, I keep mentioning that one of these days we're gonna end up seeing boots on the ground in Iran. Now, I have not done any scholarly research or predictive, analysis on this, but just judging from the basic readings, basic analysis, and the role of Iran, the hatred of Iran in the coming out of Israel and Washington, of course, and the power dynamics that govern the foreign policy of the United States towards that country. I think that it's quite plausible to think that we will see boots on the ground.
It's quite plausible that we'll see boots on the ground, even if it's a failed strategy.
Right.
Because keep in mind, we've done regime change bombing, failed strategy. 6 weeks bombing, failed strategy. 2 month economic blockade, failed strategy. We're actually back to that. We did the MOU, failed strategy. So people tell me, well, no, we couldn't possibly do this because it will be a failed strategy. And my question is, well, when have we done a successful one? So all we're doing is going through the checklist of failed strategies. Now, why there's a lot to say about why this is happening, but you touched on two of the big reasons here, and these are not at odds, Lasha. So I study escalation, but this doesn't just mean I study military bombs on targets. I'm not a pilot. I talked with the Air Force, but I never put a bomb in a pickle barrel. It's what you're seeing for most commenters is either they have operational experience doing something or other, or they have academic experience. But what I'm doing that's this different specialty is I'm looking at how military action impacts politics. and that's the politics on the target country and society, and also the home country. And you mentioned in your brief statement both of those issues. You said
Yes.
you felt like the emotion. Then you mentioned the balance of power. These are the two things I bring together. And that is what I did starting way back when I started studying air power, because I started to notice big pile of books over here, how bombs hit targets. Big pile of books over here called diplomatic history. No
Yes.
books in the middle linking the two. That's what bombing to win is. And that's a very unusual space. That space is there's a zillion books on air power. There's not a bombing to win because this is an unusual bridge. It's bridging things that are not normally bridged. And these groups, diplomatic historians, don't usually hang out with pilots and vice versa. So it's like journalists don't really hang out with pilots. So what and I found when I started teaching for the Air Force, this was the missing link. This
Mhm.
was the issue. The issue was I didn't have pile of book over here, pile of book over here. The issue
Yes.
was the linkages. That became the discussion of the escalation frameworks, what you're seeing now in the public, on the Substack and so forth. That's been all developed for 35 years. This isn't all just coming off top of my head. I had half book written called The Smart Bomb Trap here. So you want to know where's a lot of these case studies coming from? They're coming from the Word documents with this stuff that never made it to the publisher. So this is the this and it's really important because once you bring see, we often talk about strategy, military strategy as a chess game. I see it as a chess game with emotion.
Mhm.
And once you have the emotion thrown in, now you can get pieces moved where you make a move knowing the other side might take your rook. You don't
Yes.
usually do that. I played chess. You don't usually give your rooks away. Okay. So you get the emotions involved. It becomes a very different story. And that's some of the wickedness of the trap. See, I deliberately called it not escalation ladder, not escalation monitor, the escalation trap, because I'm trying to convey right from 3 days before the bombs fell, you cross this Rubicon, you are in a trap. President Trump would lose control, and he lost control the first bomb that hit. And he's been trying to get control back for 145 days. And notice he's not getting it back very easily. He's losing more and more control. And that's the feeling people have when they say things are spinning out of control. They're going to these new uncontrolled, unmanageable stages. The bottom line is this has been out of control since February 28, when those first bombs fell and killed the supreme leader. And we're just now seeing the full extent of how it's spinning out of control. It's also, by the way, not just an American issue, because see, a lot of people thought, well, okay, President Trump and Israel, they started this thing. So if they would simply stop bombing, stop using force, we're done, right? The war's over, right? That was the MOU. And the reason that didn't work is it's a little bit like people watching a bar fight. If they're in a bar and they see two guys on bar stools and one guy hits the other one, do we really think it's over unless he knocks him out and the guy can't get up? No, that other guy's going to get up, and what's he going to do? Very likely he's going to hit back. Even if the other guy says, "Oh, I hit you now. I'm good. Cease fire."
Yes.
No, no. Now you have the other side, and they want revenge. It's not good enough. So anyway, these are these dynamics we've been taught. We're now seeing.
Absolutely. Very well put. Simple scenarios that are playing out in major case of geopolitics. Just one thing I would add, a few things I would add is that escalation dominance didn't work. That's
Because
what
we never
because
had
of
escalation
escalation.
dominance.
We never had
Hormuz,
it.
Hormuz was a latent card that Iran could have always played. Now, if Iran had played it earlier, say on its own, a bolt from the blue, then the rest of the world would have balanced against Iran. So what's one of the things that's impressive about Iran, and I don't mean to, I'm not trying to compliment them I actually don't like how they're killing their people. So it's not a situation I'm very happy with. But nonetheless, we need to recognize the strengths in states. One of the things that's very impressive is they have been willing to be quite restrained until it made sense not to be restrained. And that really takes something because that's not so easy to do. And so people have often asked me, why didn't they take Hormuz before? Well, there's a very good realist balance of power reason why. Had they done that, there's a very good chance this would have caused the overwhelming balancing coalition Trump now is trying to put together and can't. Why? He started it. President Xi told him this right to his face, actually, which is you started it, you solve it, not my problem. Okay, so this is one of the big things to understand, which is that it's not wars are not just about military equipment; they're about politics. And that's often lost on people because they think war is like taking your car to the gas station to get the engine cleaned or to get the oil changed. That's not what war is about. And war is also not a business deal. A lot of people think, oh, how much money is it going to cost me to get Hormuz? No, this is not a business deal. This is not being on Madison Avenue and we're negotiating the price of that skyscraper. That's not what this is. So you can try to pretend that's what it is, but you get your clock cleaned, and that's what you're seeing. So when you come at this with these alternative frameworks, you can do it, but you're just going to get your clock clean, and that's what's been happening over and over and over again. And that's why we just keep getting deeper and deeper into the trap. And I'm really quite concerned over the next few days that this is going to take yet another deeper turn in the escalation trap that's literally right in front of us.
So yes, this is the cycle. This is vicious cycle that Washington has sort of managed successfully to
Yeah.
instill itself in. Okay. No, I think Iran, just like you mentioned, in terms of restraining and waiting for the U.S. to step up and step into this trap, actually, in many respects, built not only legitimacy but sort of showed the rest of the world and the region that it's not as rogue of a state as everybody had made it out to be. In many respects, it's just a state. It's a sovereign nation. Yes, it has said some really bad things towards Israel, the United States. Of course, we know this, but any clever strategist, anyone who even forget about realism or forget just practically speaking, devoid of any ideology, understands that this is just rhetoric. There will be the end of Iran if it ever pulled anything that would cross two oceans and come to our shores here in the United States. Any threat, I mean, it's impossible basically to, in terms of national security of the United States, to threaten this country. And Iran, Tehran understands that. This is mostly politics. This is all ideology. This is fanaticism, really. We can even take it to that far. Um, but Iran showed, look, fine, guys. If we cannot come to an agreement, and if it's our system of government that pisses you off, or yes, our dislike, to put it softly, of what Israel is doing in Gaza and Palestine, let's go to war. And in a very shrewd way, actually, some sort of a Putinist way in many respects. They showed strategic calculus that we here fail to understand or follow or figure out because perhaps of hubris, perhaps of arrogance, perhaps we have Hexet there in Washington thinking that in just 24 hours we can take care of this backward country in no time. And here is the result of that hubris. And I just want to mention the word nationalism. I think nationalism is something that is extremely powerful in international relations and politics. And I think nationalism is what got us kicked out of Vietnam, and nationalism is what is resisting us.
You are putting your finger on within the politics. Remember, I said military action hits politics.
Yes.
Within politics, there are, of course, multiple issues, but you're putting your finger on the bullseye
Yeah. No.
within the politics, which is the nationalism. And this is something that I've written about in Bombing to Win. You might think, oh my God, it's about air power. Well, read chapter 2. Okay, this is what's in Suicide Terrorism. Read Dying to Win. You'll see this. You'll see whole chapters about nationalism being involved. In the Escalation Trap Substack, you'll see as the war unfolds. I have papers about the reason that this is going to the regime change bomb is going to stiffen the regime is nationalism is going to bring what was pulling the regime apart closer together, and also the society and the regime closer together. That word is so important, Lasha, because it's one of the ways I put this and when I talk about this, when I have like days and days to lecture, I show people how different leaders have gotten caught in the smart bomb trap. And
Yes.
you hear President Trump often being described, well, my God, those bombs, those GB-57s, they just went right down those air shafts. And this is literally the mesmerization of it. It mesmerizes people. I've been in the rooms with senior people mesmerized by these smart bombs. And it's because you get these PowerPoint presentations, you get people with stars on there and they're walking you through this. It really is quite exquisite technology. But you know what never shows up in the PowerPoint briefing, Lasha? Nationalism. Because there's no network analysis.
Yes. Yes.
You see what I mean? That is missing. It's not like it's there and they qualify it and they argue against it. It's literally never there. So people keep saying, how is it that President Trump could go down this road and doesn't he get these briefings? Well, I'd like to see the briefings. Let me see the briefings here. And dollars to donuts, there's no nationalism here. You see what I mean? So you might say, oh, yeah, you're just some ivory tower dots.
Correct.
Okay, well, look at the outcomes here.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we do like video games and big explosions in Hollywood movies. So I guess that's how they view this.
And I'm sorry to say,
They
we
just
may be
described
in
it.
for some more shock and awe in the next few days. You see, a very likely possibility
Yeah.
is going to be a shock and awe campaign with ground action, not sequenced. So, what you are seeing in the evacuation of embassies, what you're seeing in the leaks coming out of Israel, see, Netanyahu's having meetings with his cabinet, with his people for hours and hours. They know roughly what's coming.
Yes.
We now have an Israeli submarine with nuclear weapons in the Red Sea. I don't know if you know that.
I did
So
not
there's an enormous amount of preparations happening here.
behind
And
the
it's
scenes.
not just by one or a few. We've moved dozens of medics to Germany. We're not moving them to Germany for nothing. You see what I mean? And they're medics, they're MASH units. So we are really, really getting prepared. Just before I got on, Lasha, there's a post from Donald Trump essentially warning Putin and Xi to stay out. Now, this is important because they got nuclear weapons.
Yeah,
So
please.
I'm just trying to point out that there are real reasons to be concerned and not just because it's all a hot air talk. There's real movement that's happening. And I think that this is what we need to be prepared for is something quite spectacular can happen. This morning on my Escalation Trap Substack, so I thought it was very important to understand what could possibly be meant by President Trump yesterday that um, Iranians have not suffered enough. So he said that they haven't suffered enough. Well, he's been talking about electric power. He's been talking about bridges. This is an area I know a ton about
Yes.
because when I taught for the Air Force, We were literally doing studies, and these were unclassed, by the way. Not everything I did was unclassed, but this was unclassified, of taking down electric power. And we would bring in the big business people from the electric power plants to teach what are the vulnerabilities and aim points in power plants and what would happen. So I know quite much more about this than you might think. And so I put a big paper out. What would you expect if Tehran loses power? The first few hours, the first week, the first month or two. And people can go look at the details. Gets kind of scary, but it's a matter of time. It's really just a matter of time. And the idea that once you start to take down the plants, and especially in certain ways, and
Yes.
I explain what those ways are here, you're going to reverse this? No, no, no. No, this is not oh yeah, we changed our mind. We don't like those thousands of people dying. And those people that can't get dialysis here, we want them to get dialysis. Call in the Red Cross. No,
No,
no.
right.
This is much more, when President Trump was using these awful words about what could happen,
Yes.
I there's more to, we're used to electric power going out. I just had this happen in my house a couple weeks ago. It went out here in Chicago, half the city, for about 12 hours. And what happens? You got to throw the meat away in your refrigerator. That's the
Yeah.
worst of it. That's not what we're talking about here.
Professor, so we're about to step into a major humanitarian disaster as well as the geopolitical
Yes, that's
disaster.
what I'm telling you. We are
Right.
the kind of thing that could be happening. Of course, it hasn't happened yet. Is a humanitarian disaster that will be very difficult to stop as it unfolds. And then also the anger that's going to produce and the retaliation by Iran. And so this is not simply one-sided. So this idea that we have the dominance, we dominate, we're going to punish them until they squeal.
Of course, yeah.
There's the pushback and the retaliation, because that punishment produces anger. And
Professor,
Iran is huge, 92 million people.
yes, yes, and
Huge.
not to mention the effects of far sort of a wider regional effects. Now, this brings me to Manila meeting. It was a joke as far as I'm concerned, but it still gave us some information. Everybody says how Lavrov stonewalled our Secretary of State, Rubio. Um, your take on Russia's role in this? Um, it will be foolish for us to assume that Russia is not helping Iran. It would be full. I mean,
Yeah, yes, but at this point, so there's a couple ways Russia can help
what
in very
kind of
specific
protect?
ways. Yeah, a couple ways Russia and China can help very specific ways.
Yes.
Way number one would be to give the targeting coordinates of our carriers. So just to be super precise, there are 5 to 6,000 sailors on those carriers. They There are ways to find them with drones, say Shahed 136s.
Mhm.
Those carry about 80 pounds of explosives. Those Shaheeds can be nuisances, and they can cause what you might call a little bit of damage. But if you want to kill hundreds of sailors or 1,000, you need ballistic missiles or you need anti-ship cruise missiles. Those pack much bigger wallops. Think factors of a 10, much bigger. That's what you need more of the targeting accuracy for. So that's where, when you say, what is the help that could happen here? That
Yes.
could happen. And I think that may be what President Trump is trying to prevent because he's going to want to move the carriers in closer, you
Yes.
see. And so this is possibly what's going on in these posts by Trump. But let's just step back and widen this out. You see, Putin is stuck in his own escalation trap in Europe. So he's already stuck in a trap, 4.5 year war. There's a whole lot to say about that. But for Putin, what he really is being given is a windfall because as the world's economy crashes, whether it's a little crash, dent in the car, big crash, or horrible crash, as the world economy crashes, this is going to hit Europe. And so all these promises that Europe's been making, 80 billion for Ukraine and this, well, these are all contingent on Europe having any money at all. So we'll see where this is going to where this is going to lead in terms of but this for Putin is a windfall. So Putin may well decide that he is going to do things that will basically build a propaganda campaign to help him raise more troops from his own country. He hasn't really raised them from the western districts of the Russians right now, Russia. He's done mostly from the east. So he may decide that he's going to talk tough, but what he's really going to do is raise troops so that when Europe weakens, then he can come in with a stronger ground campaign. That is something that might happen here. China, I think China is going to stay out of this and just let the escalation trap suck in. One of the things that China has done is they decided not to buy expensive oil. So one of the things they've done is they've stopped buying 3 to 4 million barrels of oil a day. It's not quite clear they've stopped that now, but at least they did for several months. Well, why might you do that? Well, when oil's $90, that's expensive stuff. And you got oil sitting in your reserves over a billion barrels that's free. So why not coast on what you got? Because they can coast for a while. You see what I mean? So I think that China and Russia have been they don't want Iran to be toppled. They don't mind at all America getting stuck in another forever war because for both Russia and China, that helps pin America down and makes America less able to come at them in their regions of the world. If it's
Because
okay, can I just take a drink? I've been doing this all day. Sorry.
absolutely, please do. Um, eh, so, but the thing is here is that Russia understands that the wider strategic goal here is to um, perhaps roll back Russia in the region through the South Caucasus, through the Black Sea region. Iran is a good sort of entryway. Georgia did not work. Ukraine is not working. Now it's Iran's turn. Although the reasons are sort of multi-vector reasons there in terms of Iran because of Israel.
Mhm.
But China sees this. So I don't want to get back to I don't want to get into the ancient history here, but this is sort of a Eurasia, sort of a narrowing, Russia's role in Eurasia is geopolitical sort of spatial, existence, if you will, the rim from the rimlands to the heartland, if you will,
Mhm.
somehow
Mhm.
to make it more difficult for Russia. And then Iran, geopolitically speaking, this location is a perfect one for that. To what extent this plan will work, you tell us. But I think
Well, I don't think
uh,
it's likely to work because that plan presumes that Iran is basically a paper tiger and it can be used to put
yes,
more pressure on Russia. Iran, we need to, when we say it's a large country, one way to think about it is this is the biggest, toughest opponent America has faced since Germany in World War II.
that's a huge
Since
thing.
Germany in World War II. Iran's not Iraq. It's much bigger, much more, much tougher, better technology. It's not Afghanistan. All that what I just said, ditto multiple times. It's also not Vietnam. Iran is multiple times those states. In fact, Iran is about the population size of Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan all combined, all wrapped in together. So when you think about, and also has much better technology. and has now it's part of the leading edge of what I call the second precision revolution. That wasn't true with Vietnam, and that wasn't true with Iraq, and that wasn't true with Afghanistan. So what you are seeing, and of course it has Hormuz as well, geographic advantages.
Yeah.
So you look at Iran. Iran is not just another forever war. It's the mother of all forever wars. This was always, always the one never to do. You see, the other ones were bad. This is a catastrophic disaster, and it's only getting worse. The problem here is scale, and
Yes.
it's very difficult, Lasha, and you may know because you spent a lot of time in the media trying to communicate. But of all the things that we try to communicate on these visual media, scale is some of the hardest. It's even harder than geography. Because at least with geography, we got the maps. You see what I mean? But
Yeah.
when people look at maps, they're often having a hard time getting the scale. Now, you might have miles down there and all that. I
Sure.
teach for a living. I know I use maps all the time. The hardest thing to get across to any audience, no matter how smart, is the scale. And that's what's going awry here with Iran. We're somehow thinking that it is weaker than it is in multiple different ways, but it's an issue of scale.
Strategic depth, that space that is so key.
And three dimensionals,
And third
three
dimension.
dimensional. So
Yeah.
the drone hunt.
Yes. Yes.
So when I'm using maps now, I'm using relief maps
Mhm.
because I don't just want to show that a Shahed drone has over a 500-mile radius range, excuse me, not radius, range. And what that means is it's a 500-mile by 500-mile zone launch box. That's bigger than California, but it's worse than that
Mhm.
because that's a two-dimensional way to describe scale.
Yes.
There's the Zargov Mountains. And that's like mountains are like having a skyscraper building where any floor of that building, you could find yourself a Shahed drone.
Yes.
I mean, a drone. And so this is the problem. If you're in a set of buildings, it could be in the basement, it could be on the first floor, it could be on the second floor. And you're saying, oh my God, no, you need the elevators, so we're going to shut it down. These things are light. It's unbelievable. This is not a situation where, yeah, you understand.
No, and I hope our audience understands what a trap really that the Western world has
Yeah,
got.
this is the
Not,
worst, the most wicked escalation trap.
yeah,
It may be, it's certainly for America in history. It may just be the most wicked in history. It's way up there.
yes, yes. Professor, so we are on the 49th minute on the hour here. I know you're limited in time, so
Yes,
let's
thank you.
close. Thank you once again. I really appreciate your time, and let's continue to do this because
And I'm glad to do it. I'm glad to do it. Sorry, my voice got a little craggy here, but look, you just see, Lasha,
no,
we're doing everything we can, and I really appreciate you, your audience, and all the great work you're doing.
thank you for your kind words, and thank you for being here.
Okay, bye bye.